Hey there, welcome to the DFS Build NBA Edition, Sunday Edition. I'm Kevin Roberts, getting ready to go over the DraftKings main slate for you, hopefully to help you win some money. NBA has not been kind to us lately. A lot of really poor performances, namely, look at Josh Giddey last night. Here, I'll kick myself up here, so I have to so we can widen the screen a little bit. But yeah, Giddey was not great. It's not a lot of productive plays yesterday, and it just did not end well. That said, we did have somebody in Discord win over $800 in NBA, and we have been cashing nightly in MLB. Taylor is on MLB picks. You can catch those on our Patreon. I will go over the NBA slate here, and you can certainly head over to our Discord and talk shop for NBA and MLB, and then hit up Patreon for NBA picks as well. We give out picks for NBA, MLB, UFL, and MMA right now, so be sure to take advantage of that. And most of those do have a 7-day free trial if you're not sure about going in and paying right away. The Discord is free, though, so you can go in there and talk shop about all the different sports you play, or just talk sports in general. We have a growing community over there, and everybody's happy to engage and help each other out. So if anything I do here, though, helps you out, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you get alerted to future videos just like this. Just definitely turn on the notifications if you're going to hope to get these popped into your YouTube feed. All right, let's get to it. We go position by position, highlighting the best plays of the slate. Right now, Trae Young looks really good against the Bucks. We got no Maxey, probably no Cade here. Let's see, Cade is doubtful. Yeah, so not a lot to pay up for at point guard. Obviously, Dame with the deep vein thrombosis, he is certainly not going to play now and possibly not for the rest of the year. We do have Steph Curry back, but right now it is Trae up top with a 47-point fantasy projection. He looks pretty good against the Bucks, who just really don't defend guards that well. I mean, their defense isn't going to be as bad as it was with Dame there. So it was something to keep in mind, but Trae has certainly had success in this matchup in the past. In 4 meetings this year, 46.5 fantasy points per game. So it's certainly a spot he can thrive in. He's been hot lately with 25 plus real points in 3 of his last 4 games, 10 plus assists in each of those contests. So Trae definitely can provide a low floor, no doubt about it. I'm no stranger to a poor Trae outing, but this is a good spot, and the game does have a healthy 234 total. So that is a spot I want to get to, especially since Giannis is going to look very appealing on the slate. So as things stand, I really am just building with Trae and Giannis as my pillar pieces on the slate, and my favorite spend ups, because there just is not much else to spend up for. If you're not going to play Trae, there is Devin Booker at 9.2K. Closes out the night an hour and a half after the last game. So in theory, Devin Booker is a good hammer play here, but his projection is lower than Trae's. He's a little bit cheaper than Trae, probably going to be less owned, but the matchup with Houston's not good. So if you want to just get different and fade Trae and play Devin Booker, you can do that. Or if you want to fade Giannis and just pair Devin with Trae or something like that, that's certainly within the realm of possibility as far as what you want to do. I don't think I'm super excited to do that right now, but I think just for the sake of getting a high upside player to close out the slate at low ownership, it's in play. It's a little bit more in play than it normally would be too, just because Quentin Grimes is questionable tonight. Obviously, Quentin Grimes has been wrecking for Philly, but they've been kind of cutting back his minutes, and his role has been dipping a little bit lately. Just definitely bottomed out in his last game, which was yesterday. 30 minutes, 24 fantasy points. The day before that, I finally got on him after resisting them. And of course, he had his worst game in 2 weeks, 36 fantasy points. At 9.4K, I'm kind of back off of Grimes here. He might not play. If he does play, we now have to worry about his minutes and his output. And he's just way too expensive. You can certainly still play him because the Raptors are a good matchup, and there's always a chance he just has that monster usage again. But we got Trae, we got Curry, we got Booker. I just think there's other things to do here, and there are a couple of guys priced below him. So I am off at Grimes, which means you should probably play him, because now that I'm not playing him, he's just going to wreck. Steph Curry against the Spurs. If that game stays close, Steph is going to look really good. I got no problem with Steph at 9.1K, especially if he's going to be a little bit unowned. He was not good the first time he played the Spurs, but he came back after missing 8 days, and he had 45 fantasy points against the Pels last time out. Matchup's really good. If nobody's going to be on Curry because of kind of a timid projection here, I think Curry's pretty interesting for GPPs at 9.1. We'll just see where the ownership is at. In fact, I could refresh this in a little bit to see if it changes. So right now we don't have any ownership. It is kind of early in the day. Let's see. Well, before we get to that, Let's talk Scotty Barnes. 8.6K against the Philadelphia 76ers. The minutes just are not there. I can't do Scotty Barnes at that price. I'd gladly do a lot of other different things, starting with Amen Thompson, one of the better values, one of the better high-end values of the slate. 8.3K against the Suns. The Suns are terrible defensively. He can get there in limited minutes. We know he doesn't have a high usage rate because there's Jalen Green, there's Şengün, Fred VanVleet is back. That said, I like the price on Amen Thompson. I like the matchup of Amen Thompson. The projection and price and the fact that Houston's healthy, that's going to scare people away. So Amen Thompson is probably one of my favorite tourney plays of the entire slate. It just depends on what your priority is. Like if you're building a lineup with Trey and Giannis, do you go end the night with Devin or do you pay down to Amen? Right now, I'm not really fully decided there, but the value with Amen is pretty obvious. Jalen Green's $100 more. Still prefer Amen. Obviously, small forward eligibility plays into that, and he projects a little bit better. But that would probably mean that Jalen Green's just going to be way less owned. Jalen Green though got a boost because he smashed two games ago when Amen was in the game and got hurt. So I don't think the pricing algorithm is super on point here. I think Jalen Green's always a good tourney play, but they're at full strength. So 8-4 for Jalen Green, that feels way too high. So I'm not doing that. Stephon Castle's price came up to 7K. He's been really good the last couple of games. We know he has a monster usage rate. Only problem is he's pretty scoring dependent, and he just, he doesn't play a ton of minutes. Like the minutes here, 29, 31, 29 is like, that's not enough for me. So at 7K against the Warriors, I think he's okay. I think he's an okay play, but the projection is not there. The minutes are not there, and the prices come up. So I do not think I'm going to see him as a priority. I think somebody like Dyson Daniels for $400 more is a much, much safer play. He's not a guy with a high usage rate, but he is a guy who gets like 5 steals a game. He has a really rock solid floor for the most part. Well, he's going to get you somewhere between 35 and 40 fantasy points most of the time. He can have a ceiling if he's going to hit some shots. And this is looking like a really good spot for in the game with the Hawks between the Bucks. So if you're going to be in that range, I prefer Dyson over Castle. Dennis Schroeder, we never know how to get on the right side of Dennis Schroeder. Nobody does. 2 games ago, as a blowout against the Spurs, he was not really super involved. A 16% usage rate, 18 fantasy points in 22 minutes. And of course, the next slate, he was basically the same price, and nobody wanted to play him. 39 minutes, 43 fantasy points against the Cavs, who, by the way, just keep letting people wreck against them for no real reason. In theory, Kate is doubtful. Dennis looks good. 5.8K. I don't hate it. The only problem is the price came up by $1,000, and at the Timberwolves, a good defensive team, not super ideal. My guess, logically speaking, Dennis is going to come crashing back down to earth here. Somebody at Detroit's going to pan out, but I would rather take a shot on somebody a little bit cheaper. I think Dennis is in play. I just don't think he's going to be a core play for me at that price in that matchup. Ryan Rollins, though, 4.1K against the Hawks. Smash spot against Atlanta. They are not a tough defensive draw whatsoever. The only question is going to be, is he going to be chased down by Dyson Daniels, or is Dyson Daniels going to be covering somebody else on the perimeter? If Dyson Daniels is on him, that becomes a little bit less comfortable. But 4.1K, we can take that risk. He is just super, super cheap. He's been getting it done. And Kevin Porter Jr. is $1,000 more. So because of the price discrepancy, Rollins is a smash play and he's projecting it very well. So he's the play for me there. You can still play Kevin Porter Jr., but at 5.1K, I think because at best they're splitting for the most part. At best, he just looks like he's a little bit priced out, but he's still in play if you want to just kind of leverage the Rollins ownership, which we can't see what it is right now, but I would imagine he's going to be pretty chalky because of his price point. FVV is okay at 6.9. His price came up. He was terrible against the Jazz the other day, 17 fantasy points in 34 minutes. He just does not have a big usage rate. Look at this, 16, 20, 14. Unless that changes, I'm not super excited about it. I think his price is coming up a bit too high based off of who he's been lately. But we know who Fred VanVleet can be. So if you're not worried about Amen and Jalen Green soaking up all the usage and you think maybe he can hit here, I think he's an okay play, just not really a priority for me. Jose Alvarado behind Ryan Rollins would be the second guy I'm going to get to if I don't want to spend here. He looks pretty good against the Hornets, who obviously are not good defensively and aren't really trying to do anything. I'm not going to judge him by his production against the Warriors, who are a good defensive team. 24% usage rate in that game, 27 minutes. That's enough to get me to stay on Jose, just because the Pels are very, very shorthanded. Let's take a quick look at what we're dealing with here. Obviously, the matchup with Charlotte, great. No Zion, no CJ, possibly no Kelly Olynyk or Jordan Hawkins as well. If those dudes are also out, Jose is going to look like a smash play. But he already does look good. 5.5K is not too expensive, given everything that we're looking at. Podziemski, 6.4K with Curry back in. Not super excited to race to go do that. I think he's still in play just because he starts and he's going to get 30 to 35 minutes in a close game. And of course, the Spurs are a dream matchup. I think he's a decent play, but he's getting a little bit expensive compared to the other guys that we could get excited about on this slate. Jared Butler at 6.1. If he's off the bench, that is too expensive. If he's starting, I do like him at 6.1 because we could potentially not have Grimes. If Quentin Grimes is out, then Philly is really looking shorthanded. No Oubre, no Maxey. Quentin Grimes possibly not playing. No Drummond. So suddenly Jared Butler will look pretty good. At 6.1, I'd be into it. If he's coming off the bench, I think that's a little bit steep. Jordan Hawkins at 4.8K will be a very good play if he's in. He may not play, though. He is questionable. So then we can look to other Pelicans punts. Let's see who else lines up at the point guard position here. Elfrid Payton, 3.3K. He was in play the other day. And if Hawkins is out, we could be looking at 30 minutes out of Elfrid with a decent usage rate. We know he does a lot of stuff out there. He is historically a good per minute guy. I don't mind him as a punt at 3.3K if Hawkins is out. If Hawkins is in, obviously it's going to be curbed a little bit. He's going to be looking at probably just max of 25 minutes again. Still playable because he's only 3.3K and the matchup with Charlotte's great. Just I wouldn't feel as good about him. Let's see. KJ Simpson probably going to start here with no LaMelo Ball, 4.4K. Let me just dive back in here real quick to see. Come on, it's not opening for me now. No Damian Bow, no LaMelo, no Man. So he looks good. I got no problems with Nick Smith. Or not Nick Smith, KJ Simpson. But Nick Smith also is going to be in play at 4.3K. I just think with a similar price point and KJ Simpson having a solid projection here, I think he is the better play. It's not by like a wide margin. Like if KJ Simpson comes in as like 40% owned and nobody's on Nick Smith, you can consider Nick Smith, especially since he's also shooting guard eligible. The Raptors could be a source of value as well. Scotty Barnes is still in there. Don't want to play Scotty, like I said, at that price point with his minute cap. I don't know if I said it, but I thought it, and I always say it. Jamal Shed at 4.8K, he'll be a possibility here. And then at shooting guard, you would have Jacoby Walter at 4.2 and AJ Lawson at 4. So we can certainly look at those guys too. Just to do any of them feel amazing? No, not really. It's just one of them probably will do okay. It's gonna be tough to guess who it is and really prioritize any of those guys because they're all kind of like shots in the dark. But right now at point guard, to summarize, really like Trae Young. Don't mind Devin Booker as an unowned play, assuming he is unowned. I like Amen's value, like that he can be played at small forward, and I really like Ryan Rollins. That is chalk I will gladly eat. Over at shooting guard, Devin Booker still, again, over there. Just don't like the matchup, but otherwise, contrarian play, I do like that. Anthony Edwards, $700 more against the Pistons. I think Devin Booker is feeling like a better play. Anthony Edwards seems to get hurt like every game, by the way. Like, it's really, really annoying. Minnesota's at full strength. He's just not exhibiting anything close to a ceiling lately. Maybe he's just seriously not 100%. But it's just he hasn't been getting it done. That said, we know he has a ceiling. If nobody's going to play him, I don't really feel great about paying almost 10K for a guy who does not project that well against a Pistons team that can be good defensively. How good are they still going to be defensively with no Cade? Not sure. But in GPPs, you can still play Anthony Edwards. It doesn't feel like the GPP play for me today. But I can't tell you can't play him. My thoughts on Grimes and Jalen Green and Castle, RJ Barrett. I'm not paying a premium for Raptors when they're only going to play 27 minutes. I'm just not going to do it. Dyson Daniels, okay. Devin Vassell. Now, I will say, if Devin Vassell is out, then we can get a lot more excited about Castle. And then also the other Spurs value that would open up here. So Devin Vassell is technically on the injury report and questionable. So just keep an eye on that. Like Vassell himself, 7.2K, that's getting a little bit much, but he and Castle do have high usage rates. Matchup with the Warriors, not really a friendly spot at all. So I'm not super excited to play them. I'd be more inclined to look at the Spurs value that would end up opening up if Vassell is out. Like somebody like, let's see who pops up here. It'd be Champagny probably at 3.5K. Not really going to do Malachi Branham, but Champagny at 3.5 shooting guard and small forward eligible. He would be pretty darn appealing as a value. And then we could start looking at Keldon Johnson at 5.1. I'll probably touch on him a little bit. But, if we get actual value from the Spurs, that is something I'd be more interested in. You can slide Schroeder and Podziemski over to shooting guard. Same with Jared Butler and Hawkins. Just need to see who is actually in. If we're looking at all these guys and Quentin Grimes is out, Butler is the one that would stand out the most. Of course, if Hawkins is in, he would be the best value of that 4-pack. No Dame still, so Gary Trent is in play. He's getting good minutes. He just needs to hit his shots. Like 33, 34, 30, 35. The minutes are good. He has not been very consistent because he just is not a consistent guy. He's got to hit his shots, but he's going to get them, and he will not have any hesitance in shooting them in a high-paced, no defensive battle with Atlanta. This is a pretty good spot to use Gary Trent, I'm not going to lie. Very low floor, but there is a bit of a ceiling, and you can use him at small forward, so I do not mind him at all, especially if guys like Hawkins or Bruce Brown, just in that same price range, are going to be more popular. So Bruce Brown is in play, kind of a similar play when you think about it, because he gets the minutes, but the floor is pretty gross. But in sandwiched around these two stinkers, he had pretty darn good games, and the Pels are mega shorthanded right now. So I definitely have interest in Bruce Brown. Not sure he's a core play just because there is other value on this slate, but at 4.7K against the Hornets, I am digging that. Don't mind it whatsoever. Karis LeVert off the bench for the Hawks. Good usage against the Bucks in a nice spot. Don't mind that. Malik Beasley at 5.6. Tough matchup, but the role is there with no Cade. 36 minutes, 33 fantasy points last game. Malik Beasley, he's got to hit his threes, and if he doesn't, this is what we're living in right here. This 33-point fantasy outing is kind of a little bit of an outlier as far as like who he's been. And the Timberwolves are not an easy draw whatsoever, especially on the road, but he is in play at that price, just like Schroeder. If you're going to do that, I just prefer Schroeder. I think naturally Beasley being small forward eligible is nice, and the fact that Schroeder's probably going to be chalkier makes Beasley a little bit more appealing for tourneys. But I just think if you're going to be sticking in that range, it's just you're playing Schroeder. And then I said Champagny before. If we get to a situation where Vassell is out, Champagny at 3.5 starting, even in a tough spot, that would look pretty darn good. I wouldn't mind it whatsoever. Marcus Sasser at 3.8K. He'd be blowout proof for the most part. Only 18 minutes last game, so that was a little disconcerting. But he crushed the previous two games. I think if we want to go back to him with no Cade, I don't hate it. I also just mentioned the Pels guys. If Jordan Hawkins is out, guys like Antonio Reeves, I think he's the main one for the Pels that I'd be looking at. Antonio Reeves, probably the one here. 3.1K, kind of like that you can use him at small forward as well. So I would keep an eye on him. He is an explosive scorer, not super reliable, not the most amazing player in the world, but he does chuck it. He's not afraid to shoot. And if Hawkins is out, like Reeves could get like 25 minutes here at 3.1K. I like him as a punt a lot. Shaky, GPP only, not really a core play unless he starts. I guess you could consider him a core play. But as things stand, like if Hawkins doesn't play, I think Reeves is a really interesting punt to open things up. Over at small forward, Jimmy Butler, I'm not paying 8.8K for him with Curry back. Obviously, Jimmy can get it done. The Spurs are an amazing matchup. What did he do last game? 39. Like he just really let us down against the Heat. It was not a good matchup at all. But was not even aggressive. 18% usage rate. I never can understand what's going on in Jimmy's head. Point is, he's almost 9K. This game has blowout risk with a 12-point spread. Curry's back, so the usage, should dip. So I'm not paying for Jimmy here, but the spot is good. I'd rather pay for Amen, save 500. Projection's not that far off. Minutes are a little bit more sustained. And that game has a 2-point spread. So Amen just feels like the play here across the board at small forward. The first guy I would look to if I'm not playing Amen would be Vassell if he's in. And either way, I would still look at Keldon. Keldon looks amazing if Vassell is out. You don't really have to worry about ownership that much when it comes to like should I pair Keldon Johnson with Champagny and that kind of thing. If Vassell is out, I would have no issue playing both of them because what's probably going to happen is Champagny starts, and at 3.5K, he doesn't have to do that much to hit anyways. And then Keldon would just continue to come off the bench and gain, eat up a ton of usage as just, the offensive spark that he is. Like, what's he been doing if this thing will load for me here? I would imagine his usage has been about 22 to 25% most games. This doesn't want to load. Point is, he shoots when he's out there. He scores. His price is up a little bit from 4.7 to 5.1K, but he looks really good here, and he's not going to face the brunt of that Golden State defense. And if the game blows out, he's probably safe. Projects really well. The minutes projection is better than I would expect. So he looks like a really good play. Kuzma with no Dame is still a solid play, especially in a really nice spot against the Hawks. With Giannis there, like his upside is just naturally curved. This isn't loading, so I'm not even going to try to do that anymore. But the price is coming up to the point where like you don't have to play Kuzma. I'd be much more inclined to play Rollins, and then if you want to pay up for Giannis, you can do that. I think Kuz is a solid mid-range guy, but not a guy we have to play. Same thing with Justin Edwards. He remains a really good play because Philly's shorthanded. He's been extremely productive, and the Raptors are an amazing matchup. The only downside is he is now 6.3K. He's appropriately priced now. So you can still play Justin Edwards. He's just not the priority he had been when he was anywhere between 4.7 and 5.7K. That's when we had to play Justin Edwards, and guess what? He hit every single night. So it's really cool to see that. It's just this is the way NBA DFS goes. The second you buy in on Edwards at 6.3, he's going to bomb. And I actually said this thing to Taylor too. You got to take advantage of guys when they are cheap and you see them trending up. We were talking about him at 4.7 to 5.7K, and we're saying he is going to be in the sixes soon enough because he's playing really well. He's got a big role. So if Grimes is out, you can play Justin Edwards. I just think at this price, I'm not going to force it. I already mentioned Bruce Brown, Gary Trent, totally fine plays. I prefer Bruce Brown. I think he's a little bit more stable, but both are in play. Ricky Council could benefit if Grimes is out, 5.5K. I think I would start leaning towards him a little bit as opposed to Justin Edwards or Jared Butler, just because he's cheaper and you can use him at small forward and power forward, but certainly not a safe play. It'd be nice if he started to, if you're going to do that. The Raptors could be down some bodies here. Let me take a look at how many guys they're without, just because do we want to do the Jameson battle dance? I don't know. They're without Quickly, Pirtle, Dick, and Ingram. So, if Jameson Battle is going to start at 4K, I think he's in play. Just doesn't feel like, not really a high usage guy, not a great per minute guy either. So I think he's in play, just not somebody I feel super, super excited to play. Okay, probably is going to do it. The Brooks guy for the Pels, I think it's like Keyshawn Brooks or something. Let me check. I definitely, that's not his name. It's Keon Brooks. Yeah, he had been playing 20 plus minutes a game in three in a row, and then last game he played 15 minutes with foul trouble. At 3.1K, he could end up starting or at least playing a ton of minutes if Jordan Hawkins is out. So both he and Antonio Reeves look pretty darn good as punts if Hawkins is out. I think they're still like somewhat in play if Hawkins is in, just because the Pels are super shorthanded. But if Hawkins is out, that's when they'd get to be really, really compelling. All right, next up, Giannis here at power forward. Giannis just continues to look amazing, and the Hawks are a really good matchup. He's missed a couple games, but unless we hear that he's limited, we can go full bore with him. The price is almost 12K, so he is expensive, but really there's not much else to pay up for. So I have no qualms about building around Giannis. And right now, like I said earlier, I'm building around him for sure, and probably him and Trey because it's in that same awesome game environment. Miles Bridges is going to have the offense all to himself with no LaMelo or Mark Williams. So if you want to pay 9K for Miles Bridges against the Pelicans, I don't blame you. Like that's cool. I think I would probably only do it if I'm not playing Giannis, though. I think like cramming in Miles Bridges with Giannis seems suboptimal. Like I think like if Giannis gets there, there's a pretty good chance Trey or Daniels or Okongwu get there too. So I think I'd want to just get a comeback from the Hawks game. But how you build is how you build. So maybe you want to do it differently and get Bridges, who has a massive ceiling, and just get him in as a pivot away from like Trey or something that would be possibly a little bit chalkier. So I think he's a really good play in terms of usage and ceiling and matchup. Like all those things, those boxes are checked for sure. KD's in play, matchup stinks, but he's in play. Him and Devin Booker both. Just pick a side. I would not pair them. Julius Randle, good price, but not super into that. Was okay price. The projection's not very great. Like Minnesota being healthy, the only guy I really want is Ant, and I don't even really want Ant. Tobias and okay, 6.2K, brutal spot, but that's a good price for a high usage player. Don't mind it. I think I'd just rather drop to Keldon Johnson or keep going down to maybe Jeremy Sohan if he ends up starting. This would be a good spot for him to start, really, because the Warriors do like to go small a lot. If he doesn't start, he's super risky. If he does start, he's a really good play. Pretty sure he started last night and crushed. Let's see. 35 fantasy points in 31 minutes. If he starts, I love him at 4.9K, but I need him to start. Naz Reid forever, a solid play off the bench. Don't mind that. Kelly Olynyk is questionable. If he's in at 6.2, I am game for that against the Hornets. If he is out, Carlo Makovich, 4K flat against the Hornets, he would be a core play. He looks awesome if Kelly cannot play. It probably does it. Ryan Dunn, 4.1. He's getting minutes. No Bradley Beal. Don't mind it. Don't have to do it, but I think he looks okay. All right, center. Giannis can be played there. He is far and away the best power forward in the center of the slate. Şengün. If nobody's going to be on Şengün, like that's kind of interesting. The price is not great, but the Suns cannot stop a nosebleed inside. So Şengün is going to feast. KD's the same price. Like if KD ends up getting ownership, Şengün would be a really good pivot. But both those guys are in play if you want to do that. Okongwu against the Bucks. Like the Bucks are not like amazing defensively, so I'm pretty sure Okongwu wrecked against them too. Not that long ago. Let's see. Against the Bucks, he's been pretty middling against the Bucks on the year. Last game, 25 fantasy points. So I'm thinking of the wrong matchup. Point is 7.4K for Okongwu. Solid projection. Good in game environment. I don't hate it. I'm not super excited about it. Nurkic. This is the play at center right now. If you're not going to play Giannis at center, I mean, I just typically want to play Giannis at power forward anyways. He's just such a good punt here at 3.8K. No Mark Williams. He's going to start against the Pels. No resistance. He's going to absolutely smash. You could argue to go with Diabate after on the bench, 3.2K. You could argue for that to leverage because Nurkic is going to be owned. But Nurk looks like the play here. Messi against Nurk in that matchup, 4.7. He's okay. Orlando Robinson with no Pirtle. He's all right. Don't have a problem with those guys. And then Kelly, if he starts, can be used here, or Makovic. Don't have an issue with those guys either. All right, let me get one quick drink before we wrap up here. All right, so that does it for the position by position breakdown. In summary, I think it's going to be a little bit chalky on the chalky side, and I'll refresh just to see if we get ownership on the fly here. And I'm also going to refresh the Underdog Twitter timeline to see if anything else popped up. But yeah, so ownership-wise, Giannis is going to be super owned. Not shocking. It's organized by fancy points here. Trey is going to be about, maybe half is owned, roughly. Not shocking. I'm okay with eating that chalk. Like Trey and Giannis are going to exchange blows here. Really nice game total, 4-point spread in Milwaukee. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think they're both going to hit, so I don't mind building with them. And honestly, the value is insane on this slate. Love the Pels value. Just keep an eye on Hawkins and Olenek. If they're in, you can play them. If they're out, I'm loving the punts there. Along with Jose Alvarado and like Messi and stuff, like all those guys are in play. Keep an eye on the Spurs situation. If Vassell is out, then like Sohan is probably going to start. And then we can look at Champagny. We can feel a lot better about Keldon Johnson. So that's like where I'm at right now on this slate. Of course, we need to monitor Quentin Grimes' status as well. If he is out, a lot more opens up. It looks better for the Phillies side too. The question will be like, how am I getting different on the slate? I do think Devin Booker to close out the slate is probably a decent way to get different. If this ownership actually sticks though, and KD is the one at sub 10%, I'm not having a problem with trying to find 500 extra bucks to go get him either. Both of them would look interesting. Like Şengün, I mentioned, he's going to be contrarian. If you want to just ignore the Suns guys and just play, a guy at a similar price with a better projection with just as much ownership right now, like that's pretty appealing to me. I know Şengün is not the most clickable guy at 9.6, but that does look pretty good. All right, that is going to do it for me. Things are bound to change. This is NBA DFS. That's how it goes. As they do, head over to our free Discord to get advice leading into lock, and also head over to our Patreon page to get access to our core plays to really help you out and give you an extra boost. If you want to play MLB, definitely check out Patreon for that as well. Thanks for watching and good luck.